So unless there's some random weapon balancing changes, this will be one of the last top 10 loadouts of Warzone going into Modern Warfare 2. We've kept it pretty simple, starting off with experimental. These are a loadout that you either love or you hate. This is the Type 100. It will delete in a 1v1. Now, a lot of times it can get tricky once you get into duos, trios, and quads. It's really going to come down to the individual skill. And depending on where you land and how aggressive you are, you either love this gun or you just don't think it has enough ammo. And I think for the vast majority, it doesn't have enough ammo, but some people are willing to work with that fast TTK because you will win your one-on-ones. The build for that is going to be recoil booster, the Warubachi Rapid with the Slate Reflector, Warubachi grip folding, sleight of hand because we're using the smaller mag, quick leather grip, subsonic to stay off the minimap, and hollow point isn't helping in this particular case. We usually only use hollow point when it's going to actually impact the TTK and shots to kill, bringing your shots to kill from an average of 7 down to 6. Then you use it. If it doesn't change that, then there's not really a benefit in just shortening your range with the compact for the strafe speed. But if you want better movement, you can go ahead and go with something like the skeletal, and that'll also help out the aim down sight, even though Vanguard guns typically do okay with aim down sight. Next up is the M1 Garand. Personally, I didn't like it. A lot of people are gassing it up. I even double checked Warzone rank to see kind of where this one stacked up. Not a lot of people are using it, but the overall KD was pretty reasonable. So I thought, hey, you know what? Why not you try it out if you want? I think it's primarily gonna be a smaller map thing because the mag size isn't very forgiving. Kind of same issue with the Type 100, but this one is a little bit more of a mid to very high skill weapon, and that's probably who's going to enjoy it the most. So we got MX silencer, the CGC Ironside, the 3-6X optic, but you can use something else if you want a little bit smaller. I know some people are using reflex, some people are using 2.5. Then we got the Chariot stock with hard scope on hand, stippled 16 round clip with the lengthen and heavy foregrip. Then we got the Reagain loadouts, which have changed a bunch, and now we're on the Automaton because it is within the meta boundaries, and it allows for fully loaded because that's kind of a huge plus, especially late game. You land one mag is not enough for Modern Warfare and Cold War guns typically, and this gives you a little bit more versatility in the build, and that's gonna be MX silencer, the ZAC 600, the 3-6X, or the 2.5. A lot of people are switching to that slate because of the nerf where you do the M38 slate 2.5 or just the straight 2.5, but again, that's gonna come down to preference. We got Anastasia padded, tight grip, fully loaded polymer 75 round drum with lengthen and Carver foregrip. For the secondary, we're running the AMP, which is the Agency Suppressor Task Force Ember Sighting 30 round fast mag and Serpent. This thing isn't anything special, but it is one of the best close range options, enough for maybe you kill someone, loot their gun, and then you pick up one of the top tier viable or meta weapons that's going to be a little bit more reliable in whatever game mode you're playing. And the Reagain also doubles as your second loadout if you manage to get one of those with either Ghost or Restock, since those are a little bit rarer floor loot perks, and you kind of just got to balance it out whether you're going to get amped, Combat Scout. Serpentine got nerfed pretty heavy, so maybe you run Quick Fix or Double Time or something along those lines, or even EOD, more of the rarer ones to find on the floor loot, and you just kind of have the loadout set up to complement the perks you already get. Then we get the Honorable Mention, which is more kind of one of those ones that not a lot of people are using, but these things still kill pretty fast. The RA225, it's just kind of not super meta, so a lot of people just kind of like, I don't know, but it is a very good option. And the build for that one's going to be recoil booster, the rapid barrel, and then either the 38 round Gorenko or the 55. 38's a little bit more consistent, so it's really one of those things like the Type 100. If it had a 55 round Gorenko mag, then it would probably be right in the meta conversation. But because the ammo situation, you either love it or you hate it based off the mode you play and your play style. Then we got Slate Reflector, the MB, Momentum, on hand, taped, lengthened, and skeletal. You could also go subsonic on this one. Again, that's preference. And then we got Momentum. You could also use sleight of hand if you're going to use the smaller mag, just like we did with the Type 100. Then we have something that's kind of been a sleeper for a while. It's kind of one of those things with the optic. Now the 3-6 has been nerfed on Vanguard weapons. So this has kind of streamlined itself and brought itself into the conversation. And this is the MG82. It has crazy fast fire rating. It kind of mirrors the UGM a little bit in terms of how it's used. It has basically only vertical recoil, so it's super easy to use. And the bullets come out and you will delete players, especially since we are kind of in a quote unquote LMG meta. Like we've been in the past with the Bruin and the Bren, now it's kind of the UGMs in there, and this one allows it to kind of compete because they're very comparable. It's just this one is a Cold War weapon. The build for that is Agency Suppressor Task Force 3X Optic Field Agent Grip, fast mag, or you go with the 125, which will be very mirroring of that UGM, which is right at the top of the board. This one you'll probably want to run amp because LMGs are pretty slow and they don't have the option to run something like a tape grip or some of those perks that will actually help with weapon swap speed. Then we get top tier viable. These are all very good, but maybe they're not necessarily a standout. Maybe they work better on Rebirth Island or Fortune's Keep because of the visual zoom and how you take engagements fully loaded. There's a lot of different variables, but these are all very good options. And there's a lot that I did not include on this list because then we'd be doing like a 35 loadout weapon video type thing. And that's kind of unnecessary. If you have a favorite gun that you like, just use that one. You already know the build for it. You've been using it for a while. But if you need a little bit like, hey, I'm kind of want to mix it up, these are kind of the ones you would go through, and that's kind of where you'd find your build. We got the Volk, which has been kind of one of the nastiest sniper supports, but with the changes to things, snipers kind of faded away, and now snipers have kind of come back. So you can use this with any sniper that you're comfortable with, whether it's Kar 98, either game, ZRG that we're going to talk about right now. But this thing is very versatile and can compete TTK-wise with the close range meta, especially since you get extra range on top of that. So we got recoil booster, Kravsnik, 05V, Slate Reflector, Rise Door, Perfectionist, on hand taped, 45 round mag, which kind of is the limiting factor there, subsonic and skeletal. So damage per mag isn't amazing, but not every gun's perfect, right? We saw with the type as an example. And then we got the ZRG, which is pretty much the meta build we've had for a while. Wrap, Combat Scout, 5 milliwatt laser for the ADS, the stability, stuff like that. And then we go 5 round mag with Serpent Wrap for the better aim down sight. And that's pretty straightforward build. Still hits pretty hard. One shot, headshot, infinite range, as long as you make contact with the head. Straightforward. And then you'd probably want to run amped for that as well. Then we have the Sten, which a lot of people get annoyed by that it covers your screen when you attack sprint. If that doesn't bother you, then this gun is very good in pretty much every other category. We have the recoil booster, rapid, Slate Reflector, Gfuel custom, acrobatic, quick tape, 50 round with lengthen, and the skeletal. And again, with lengthen, you could always put on the subsonic if you want to stay off the mini map. Hollow point is not necessary on this weapon. So you got the options there. We got the Vargo, and this is the Cold War version. It has never really been popular, but it's been continued to get buffed over time. And while other things have been nerfed, besides the 3X optic, it's kind of right in there in terms of TTK, ease of use, recoil, all that stuff. Especially if you're on console, this thing is super easy to use, even with your ADF FOV. The problem is if you play on the bigger maps, it could be harder to spot people at range, and that's just kind of how it's always been, right? We got Gru Suppressor Task Force, Susat Multi-Zoom, the Spetsnaz Speed Grip, which is a little bit different. This one primarily focuses on horizontal versus the Spetsnaz, which is horizontal and vertical, and this kind of helps straighten it out a little bit with the 60 round mag. And then as you'd expect, another Vanguard weapon in the mix, we got the Marco. It's also been nerfed a few different times, but it's still right up there because of the movement. It allows you to kind of shimmy in and out of gunfights. The TTK is no longer spectacular, but it does compete. We got recoil booster, the Perfetto Lesto, Slate Reflector, the Emerito FR, momentum quick taped, hollow point with 64 round drum, and the skeletal. And then this one kind of got hit with the nerf where you have to run hollow point over subsonic or lengthen. And although I know you can go with the rapid fire barrel, that is a good option to increase the or improve the TTK, but overall that's going to make it a lot harder to use for a lot of people, and that really comes down to your skill level. If you feel like you wanted to see if it kills faster, you can definitely go with this one, and it will be a little bit harder to use. And the tried and true King Grau. And the Grau, it's kind of one of those ones with what they changed the neck damage. They made it where the TTK is a little bit more consistent and sub 1 second, a little over 900 milliseconds. So it's pretty solid. Monolithic suppressor, Archangel, Commando 4 grip, 60 round mag, and the 3X optic. If you're on console with ADFOV, you can actually get away with just using the attack laser without the VOK, because when you ADS, it will give you a little bit of zoom, and this thing is still a laser with just the iron sights. It's so fun to use that way. Then we're getting to the Meta Chaser category, which this is what people are going to be using when they're competing head to head in the most competitive lobbies in the World Series of Warzone. It's a combination of these 6 weapons or so, where they're using one short range and swapping out the long range. This is pretty much what they're using with $600,000 on the line. And what we have here is the Arma kind of paired with the 3 line, and the reason for that is the Arma gives you a good sniper support potential. Volk is pretty good too, but the Arma gives you a little bit more versatility in terms of movement, in finessing up at close range. Damage from mags a little bit better, so that's kind of where it shines there. But this one at range, it still has very little to no recoil, which makes it the ultimate sniper support weapon, having that versatility of finesse. So we got recoil booster, the precision barrel, slate reflector, skeletal, sleight of hand, quick, taped, 60 round, hollow point, and then the skeletal over here. You can go hard scope. Since this is only for recoil, it's not going to interact with the skeletal because this is initial recoil. Just be aware that if you want to change tape to like polymer or something like that, it would cancel out the effects there. So just kind of use something like this and you should be good. Hollow points, definitely one of those things that makes this a little more consistent. You could also go with the third barrel, which is going to give you more damage, but that's a little bit harder to use and kind of brings in that range at how far you can be accurate. Again, it comes down to skill level, preference, and versatility. We got the 3-line rifle, and this one is kind of up there. People really kind of go back and forth on what they want to use. The long range sniper pool isn't the largest. The 3-line kind of comes near the top. So we got Mercury silencer, the Kavaliskaya 820mm with the 4-to-8x. You can use whatever optic you want, even the default, if you want to be able to hold your breath or whatever. And then we got the Zach Custom MZ with silent focus on hand for the better ADS, polymer, 20-round mag with lengthen and heavy foregrip. Then we got the Blixen, which has been nerfed and it requires a little bit more skill because you do have to land those chest shots to get that little bit faster TTK. And we're using the recoil booster, the RMK. You can still use the other ones. This one is just the one that has the better TTK. Slate reflector, remove stock, fleet, quick, taped with the 454 Gorenko and the hollow point and compact. Again, you could swap this out if you want better aim down sight. If you want better recoil control, something along those lines, you can modify these and you know, kind of balance it out. If you're like, you know what, this is hurting my recoil too much, you can swap to something else, or you can go to like Perfectionist, which will also help out recoil control. So you got a few different options there depending on your skill level. And then long range, although everything's been nerfed, Automaton's pretty much stayed the same, or Automaton, depending on how you want to say it. It's appropriate to be able to say it both ways. We've got MX silencer, 600mm, the M38 slate with the 2.5x or the 3-to-6, Anastasia padded, tight grip, on hand, polymer, 75 round lengthened, Carver foregrip. And this is kind of built for sustained recoil control. Pretty straightforward. And then that brings us into the third meta chaser category, and that is the PPSh, which is kind of popular. Some people use this primarily hipfire, but it doesn't really have a lot of recoil, so you can ADS with it. Depending if you want to modify attachment here or there, you can get faster TTKs, but maybe you get a little bit less reliability. So there are little tweaks that you can make to this. This is just kind of an all-around good build. Recoil booster, the Kavaliskaya 230, slate reflector, remove stock, tight grip, quick, Pine Tar, 71 round, subsonic because the hollow point doesn't help, skeletal for the better aim down sight, or you can go and get the compact so you get a little bit more strafing movement. But this one requires you with aim down sight, so you're not getting that benefit if you're hip firing. So you kind of got to build the build to make it make sense for you. And that brings us to the UGM. I know I'd have it typoed there, but I'm not fixing that. We got MX silencer, the Bernard 736 with the M38 or one of the other optics, the Mercier WT anchor, and then we got tight grip, on hand, hatched, 125 lengthened, strife angled. And the other thing you could do here is obviously fully loaded. You could always swap those things out. And that's it. If you made it here, hit the like button. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.